Hey, everybody, we are here with a phenomenal expert today who is going to share really important conversation.
Yeah.
Um, Everybody, please welcome Lala to our expert series. Lala, why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about who you are and what you do, who you help, and then, all that good stuff. And then we'll talk about why we're here.
Yes, so my name is Lala, and I am a spiritual and mindset coach. So I basically just help women become better, become more, become unstuck in their life, to have massive clarity and to become more powerful. Um, my why I stepped into this industry is because I had my own story of unbecoming and being tremendously depressed and full of anxiety, depression. I mean, anything that you can throw at me, I'm sure I have experienced it when it comes to mental health. And just experiencing that alone, that's not something that I feel like is fair or that other women should experience. So being able to go down to that dark place and pulling women out of it is truly my passion and it's my calling. So stepping into that is something
Beautiful.
that I look forward to. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm just me.
I love it. I love it. And it's such important work, right? Because I remember when I was in like my deepest depression myself, like I didn't have anybody to pull me out, and to have someone who like has been down that path and knows the way and can like break through the barriers and reach out a hand and could help me come out of that sooner would have been life changing.
Yeah. hmm
I
That
think
is
the other thing too, like this conversation timing wise, is
Mm.
actually a really good time because mental health struggles tend to spike in the springtime for some reason.
yeah.
It's this
hmm
um,
Like we can't tolerate the winter anymore.
yeah,
Like we're just at the end of our capacity
kind of.
to
We're done
manage
with it.
no sun
Yeah,
and short days
they
and
say it's a shift in the circadian rhythm. And I've
ah
done
Mhm.
like research on it because like it's like why April? Like why is April,
It's such
May, June like such difficult times for people who are struggling with mental health
mm,
and depression, specifically. So anyway, I think it's a really great way to like kick off the spring too.
mm-hmm.
right. It's important.
Yeah, it is important. And it specifically today we're taking an angle on this conversation, right? About like how you can work with your partner to be that hand to pull you up, right? Like how your person, your relationship can be a source of strength and resilience when one
Mhm.
or the other partner or both are like struggling with mental health issues.
That is so.
um so I'd love to hear from you, Lala. Like, why for you is this topic so important? Why for you is it so important for partners and couples to be able to do this together?
I say it's important for me because I see how it destroyed my relationship at one point, me trying to fight the battle alone and not being
Mm-hmm.
completely honest and taking responsibility for my mental health journey. I think there was a saying that I said that your mental health journey is your responsibility, but allow your partner to be the anchor in your storm. And I wasn't
Ah,
allowing him to be that for me. I was allowed, when you're dealing with mental health, you're aloof, you're ungrounded. And having him being able to be that anchor, I wasn't giving him that chance to do that. So that's
mhm.
why it's important for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like when your partner can't be the anchor in that storm,
Mm-hmm.
they like not only do you suffer, but they do too, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Can you say a little bit more about that? Like what happens to our partners if we're not working together in mental health?
Become distant. The lack of intimacy, whether sexual or physical, that's a big thing there. You start to see more arguments, and I'm speaking from like my experience and what I remember when we were at our worst because my mental health wasn't together and I wasn't allowing him to be that anchor. We stopped communicating. We stopped
Mhm.
seeing each other. Like it was like we saw the worst in each other. Every chance we
Mhm.
got, the toothpaste was squirting over. Oh, it's just a lot because we are at our wits ends because we're not communicating, we're not together, we're not
Yeah.
connected. So the loss of connection, communication lack, trust can also be a thing there too, because you're not allowing them to feel like you can trust them. That's a big thing for me too, and what happened to us in our journey.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember, in the times that I've been in a depressive episode, like, and one was really recently, I found myself feeling so angry with Cal, like some part of the twistiness of the
Yeah.
illness, right? Like made it really easy to scapegoat him and see him as the reason for my anger and the reason for my suffering and my problems, and I wanted him to fix it. And even though like the work we do with couples is all about accountability and being responsible for your own stuff, and I knew that, and I was like doing that work in this coaching business, I was still not in a mindset of partnership with him, right? Not
Yep.
consciously anyways.
Yep.
That had slipped away in the darkness. And I know that didn't feel good.
No, it didn't. But then I'm thinking about, the concept of being an anchor. I think I actually did a pretty good job
you
in
were.
that situation. Like, I understand this anchor piece. Like,
like the storm is raging all around you.
Yeah. Hanging up in your life, because I know eventually it would calm down. I knew that it wasn't coming from a powerful place, like
a truth place.
Yeah, a place of truth, and yeah, so it made it easier to not take it personally. But I mean, yeah, there were some challenging moments.
Yeah.
And I know that if we hadn't had the foundation that we did, and I'm sure the same goes for you, Lala, and your husband, it would have destroyed the relationship. It certainly has destroyed previous relationship for me. And I see that a lot in my work with couples as both a therapist and even now in doing this relationship coaching work. If partners don't know how to come together, right? Extra conflict, decreased intimacy, disconnection, these stories where you just see the worst in people, and that eventually really erodes the relationship.
Yeah.
Especially because the more that your relationship becomes distressed, the worse your mental health gets.
Yep. That is absolutely.
And it spirals.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that is also a good thing to think about, how your mental health journey doesn't only affect you. It also, because we can get in that phase where it's woe is me, but we also have to realize that everyone around us is attached to us and that love us. They are suffering, or the ripple effects, like a domino effect. They're experiencing that effect as well.
Have an experience.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people who are struggling with mental illness know that they're having a negative effect, or that they're causing stress or pain or hardship on their partners, and it leaves them feeling worse about themselves, right?
Yeah.
But it's also I think exasperated because we're in a narrative that says that your mental health is your issue, right? And you shouldn't burden people, and you should just take care of it, and you should figure out how to just make yourself better. And nobody's talking about, how do we team up here? How do we be partners together for this?
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference for both people, for everybody who's affected, when they're all working together to help solve a problem or support a challenge.
Yeah.
Right? Or make someone who's ill feel better.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah.
I think that's when we come in at, the question you asked, how can we become more of a partner? And I think that's when I created, a plan of care. When you know that you are disposed, you maybe have, mental health issues or a crisis, or you know that what you're experiencing, but be prepared, prepare you and your family, and create a plan of care. And one of the things for me is when my husband sees that I'm in the bed too long, he would literally come in the room and open up the blinds. Something so minuscule and so small, but that's a trigger for me. That's okay. without him having to say anything. Oh, you need to get up or make me feel extra bad. Just open up the blinds. It's like, okay, you've been here too long. Or if he see
Mm-hmm.
that that's not getting me up, he'll go turn on the cold shower. And we have a rule. This is usually when I'm having panic attacks. But when you're having panic attacks, I usually do like cold therapy. So he'll turn on, if I'm having a panic attack, he'll turn on the cold water. And it's something by Mel Robbins called the 5 second rule. So he would count down 5, 4, 3, 2, and by 2 I need to be getting up, jumping in the shower, because it helps you
Mm-hmm.
not combat or helps you not try to talk back or get your inner critic to start talking. You just go straight into action. And he do little things like that, and that's a part of our plan of care. Like when I'm experiencing panic attacks or dissociation, this is something that we can do. When I'm experiencing depression, what is one thing that you can do and I can do? And then after he starts to initiate, because sometimes it's hard to initiate, it's hard to like know, okay, I know I'm going down this path. How can I get from in my mind into my body? And we need
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that anchor and that person to help us, and that was my partner. So creating that plan of care for what that looks like for you and what that looks like for your spouse is so important. And it also builds trust. It builds
Mm.
that connection with you and your partner. It makes things a little
Yeah.
spicy, down the line.
I bet. I bet. Because I can imagine be like, who, you really pulled me out of that, babe. Like, I would be like, yeah, thank you. Hop into bed, honey.
Let's go. We need to go on vacation for that one. Let's get out of the house. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, so talk to me a little bit, like to us, a little bit more about this plan of care, because this is such
Yeah.
a radical idea. I mean, it sounds so obvious when you say it.
Mm-hmm.
And in all of my years of studying, being a therapist, and working with mental health, guess what no one ever talked to me about? Creating a plan of care between partners where mental health is a part of the relationship experience. I mean,
Right.
we won't go down that soapbox road, but like, so like, how do you, like, can you just briefly walk us through, like, what does that actually look like? How do you
Mm-hmm.
make that plan? How do you agree on that plan? How do you even know what's going to work and what's not going to work?
Exactly.
When do you make that plan? Like, what happens if it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work? I just want to pick your brain about this because it is so, again, it's like so revolutionary.
Yes. So, plan of care, you usually hear that with when you're first meeting a therapist, they go over a plan of care, what that looks
Sure.
like for you and your therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw like a plan of care from when I'm outside of therapy and with my spouse. So, for us, it's better to be proactive than to be
Mm-hmm.
reactive, right? So waiting
Absolutely.
until the last minute when you're already in the dump, you're not going to want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So it took trial and error for us and for me, honestly, like what worked. And this is why I say allowing your partner to be your anchor, but it's also your responsibility because you have to
Mm-hmm.
be able to know what feels good and what doesn't feel good. Don't just say, oh, yeah, that's great, but what feels good and what doesn't feel good. So the plan
Mm-hmm.
of care, we literally got paper and pen. To be honest with you, we
Yep.
went to the board. We went to the board with it. Okay, enough is enough. My husband had got to the point. Look, babe, I want to be here to support you and I want to help you. And it really hurts my heart. And this was a heart to heart conversation. Like he was almost in tears because it's like, it hurts me that I know that you're suffering. And I'm a person that internalizes and I suffer quietly. I don't let anybody know
Mm-hmm.
that I'm going through things. But he knows, as I'm his spouse and we've been together for 11 years, he knows when something is up. So he was like, babe, it's time we have a heart to heart and we have a conversation. I want to know what we can do to when you get to this space. I know it's something that we probably can't avoid, but what can we do when you get to this space that will help us be proactive and help you be able to feel a little bit better, if that makes sense. A lot of us like
Mm-hmm.
to wait to the last minute to start to deal with things. So for us, for me, it's just all about my research and all about what works for me. Like for example, the 5 second rule by Mel Robbins. I didn't know what that was, but me having panic attacks, I needed to know what would work for me. And
Mm-hmm.
that was one of those things that worked for me. So having things that you know works, like taking a walk. Hey, babe, this is your part of your plan of care. Let's go take a walk. And you don't even have to say this is part of your plan. Hey, do you feel like going for a 10-minute walk with me? Yeah, sure. Let's go. Put on your shoes or come in the room with their tennis shoes already in your hand. That leaves the excuses out. come in the room with a pair of tights or a shirt or, their clothes and
Mhm.
tennis shoes. That leaves out most of the excuses. Oh, I don't have nothing to wear. Oh, I don't have no shoes. Oh, that leaves out the excuses. So taking a walk, like what are things that you do that makes you feel better, even if it's just
Mhm.
for a moment? Because it's
Mhm.
all about those little nugget moments that create the big effects. So for us, it
Mhm.
was just finding things that worked for me. And we also created a plan of care for him, but finding things that work for you, putting it on that list and allowing yourself, because like I said, it's okay if your partner have to like kind of like push you into it.
Mhm.
Because sometimes it's hard to take initiative to do
Oh,
things
sure.
first. So if your partner come and like, for example, he opened up the window for me. Okay, I know I've been sitting here for too long. That triggers my brain. Okay, it's time to get into motion because now I know that I've been sleeping too long. So just finding things that you can do that feels good by yourself, and also that your partner can initiate for you, that you guys can do together, is also
Mhm.
important.
Mhm. I love
Oh,
that.
yeah, love it.
Yeah. I think what really, stands out to me in this is, well, two things. First, it's like the emphasis on, yeah, you have to take personal responsibility
Mhm.
to figure
Mhm.
out what works for you.
Yeah.
And as part of that, I'm hearing like this um, power of decision, right? Where you're deciding,
Mhm.
if he does this, I'm gonna do
This
this.
is it. Yep.
If he's nudging me, I have made this agreement. It like creates this accountability container,
Contract almost.
right? Like, yeah, like, because you're not just now, in depression, we promise ourselves that we're going to do a whole lot of things. And then depression gives us all kinds of excuses not to. And then we feel worse about ourselves, which makes it harder to do, right? Like, that's part of the
Yeah.
spiral.
Mhm.
Um, and I imagine anxiety has a component like that too. But like, when you've made the agreement that, like, I know this affects you too. We know that this is what we're going to do when this happens, if this happens, and this is what I'm going to do if I see you do this. Like, that just like puts a little bit more motivation and
Mhm.
incentive to move
Yes.
into action, to do the things that you know are going to help you, which are those things that like are so hard to do when you're actually in the throes of like a mental health condition. The other thing that feels really like awesome here is the collaboration,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? That you're like really working together. It's not, you, Lala, coming up with your list and handing it to your husband and saying, here, this is what you can do to help me. It's you guys sitting down together. Like, what do we notice? What do you feel like good about doing? What plan of care do you need
Mhm.
here? Um,
Well, and it also sounds like it's open-ended, right? Because you mentioned there's some trial and error to it.
mhm,
So,
Yeah.
so giving each other permission to like switch it up, giving
Mhm.
yourself permission to recognize that, okay, this time that didn't work,
Work. Yeah.
or
mhm,
for this
Mhm.
reason, and like
mhm,
going back to the drawing board and making the adjustment so that like you
mhm,
get the plan dialed in.
mhm,
That's really great.
mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. What other ideas would you want to share with folks in their relationships to help them come together in support of mental health?
So another big component or another pillar to it would be being intentional. Um,
Mm.
I wish I could just like stress the fact of how important it is to be intentional. And a lot of people say this word and it just sounds fancy and it sounds
Yeah.
like cute and it just sounds a
Mhm.
narrative like, but it's so important when you're able to be intentional in your mental health journey with everything that you do. And as far as with your partner, being intentional with communicating, being intentional with maybe I can't do this today, but what is something that you can do? What's something, how can you connect with your partner today? Like for me, I was in the bed for 3 months straight, didn't connect, didn't care to connect. I didn't care if we were coming and going, but I had to get to a point where my partner meant a lot to me. Even though I didn't mean a lot to me in that moment, he meant
Mhm.
a lot to me. And some people judge that, like, all of these things, but I feel like if you can't do it for you, right? You can
Hmm.
do it for someone else. And
Yeah.
being able
That's
to
easy.
do it for my spouse and do it for my kid outside of myself. So it didn't give
Mhm.
me much excuses. Like this is for someone that I really care and I really love. I really love, and we would do so much for the people that we love and care about. Like
Yeah.
we would go to the end of the
Yeah.
world. versus ourselves, and that's another story for another day. But being able to be intentional with how we can connect. I can't really do this today, but I know that maybe we can go out for ice cream. Maybe we can go out to go for a walk, or maybe we can have a conversation. We can talk. I can let you know what's been going on in my mind and my world. So being able to be intentional with how you connect with your partner throughout your
Mm,
mental health journey. Hey, babe, I've been taking this medication. It's not doing too well for me, or I don't want to take this anymore, or I'm not too good with this. Like being able to be intentional, and that brings in the other part of communicating. A
mm,
lot of us, when we go through our mental health journey, we lack communication. We don't want to talk to family. We don't want to talk to friends. And I think that's how depression, we're going to use, get us. It isolates us.
oh
And
yeah.
what isolate, we can't have people in our world to love us and to care about us and to show us, because depression lied to us a lot about nobody cares and nobody love us, but we're just isolated. So being able to bring your partner in, being able to communicate about what's going on, no matter how dark it is. Like I thought, if I would let my husband know what was going on in my head, that I will be one trip to the hospital, okay, with
Mm,
shackles on. I'm going to be one step closer. But being able to be open in that capacity, to be honest with you, allowed me to be open in other capacity in our
mm,
relationships, intimacy, um, just wild things, partnership, parenthood, like being able to see that he didn't judge me in that manner, because I thought if I would say this one thing, he's going to look at me like, oh my
mhm,
God, you are somebody I don't know. But just seeing in
mhm.
his eyes the way he wanted to just bring me in and hug me and tell me, oh, babe, I love you. Like that is important, to allow yourself to be seen in such a
Yeah.
vulnerable state and allow them to pour into you. So communication and being
Mhm,
intentional are both the last two pillars that's important.
mhm.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and like generally, it's like the structure of support, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mm,
love it.
Yeah.
it is.
I really appreciate recognizing that like communication isn't just about like figuring things out, right? Like
Mhm.
communicating about what you need or whatever. But it's like it's also sharing your insanity, sharing your darkness, sharing
Right.
Shadow,
your
right? Yeah.
shadow parts, right? Like let it I
Mhm.
love the way you said like let yourself be seen. And because
Mhm.
it is so healing, it's so settling for our souls,
Right.
for our bodies,
Mhm.
to recognize that someone can see us in what might feel for us like our worst moments and
Yeah.
still have love for us.
Mhm.
Like,
That
oh,
deepens the love.
yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And I bet it. Oh, go ahead.
I told my husband that honestly, after my last mental health crisis, I was like, I fell in love with you all over again. Like, let's get remarried, because that's just
Mm-hmm.
how it felt. Like, I felt like I fell in love with you all over again. Like,
I
it's just
bet.
a new journey.
Yeah. Yeah. And from that perspective, how like how cool, what a silver lining to think that each crisis can be an opportunity to go even deeper in your love, right? To like
Hmm.
strengthen your resilience, strengthen your
Mhm.
commitment, strengthen your like safety of knowing that you're going to
Right.
be okay and you're going to be able to get through whatever
Yeah,
happens.
you look at those crises a lot differently if you see them as opportunities.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Me and my husband have this saying that when we're going through something hard, that we can get through anything together. Like that's
Yeah.
our mantra. We can get through anything together,
Mhm.
and we just repeatedly say it so that we not only have um, belief in ourselves, but belief in our partnership and what we created together, our
Yeah.
connection. Like we're unstoppable
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I think that's exactly it, right? Like
That's what everyone wants.
that's what
Yeah.
everybody wants. And I think that's what
Yeah,
like gets to happen when you learn how to do this together.
exactly.
Yeah. So, can you share an example of this? I mean, I know you've been sharing bits and pieces of examples from your own
Yeah,
story, but
right.
I'm wondering if you have like because sometimes stories are really helpful in illustrating what's possible. But I wonder if you have more of a story or of your story or another story that might help illustrate like what's possible for couples or what this could look like?
Yes. So I do have one client that was experiencing binge eating and depression. And those two
Mm,
can very be tricky with each other. And actually, her relationship, because her spouse didn't know that this was going on, like, was, I don't know if they chose to be oblivious, or it was kind of like the two. Like, they chose to be oblivious and she wasn't really communicating on what was going on.
mm-hmm.
Like, she would kind of like hide how she was feeling, she would hide what she was going through, not tell her spouse that she's going to therapy or going to the psychiatrist. Like they were very disconnected, and
Yeah.
I noticed that. And she was like, what can I do? Like, my relationship is like on the brinks. Like, I feel destroyed. I don't know what I can do with myself. And we had to create that plan of care for what you can do when you're getting triggered. And that's whether you notice that you're being triggered and you're going down the drain of depression, or you're being triggered to eat something that you necessarily wouldn't want to eat, and being able to have a sit down conversation with your spouse. So, like,
Mhm.
and that was so hard for her. She was like, no, don't make me do this. Don't make me do this. But I'm like, it's, do you love them? Like, is this something that you want to be a part of? Like, just making sure they're safe, and like, this is what you want. And if this is what you want, like I told you guys, that allowing your partner to truly see you is the most important aspect, and being able to truly see yourself, because a part of us don't want to see how dark things get for us. So we'll
Yeah.
be in bed depressed, scrolling on TikTok or on Facebook or Instagram, because we're just trying to like block out what we really have going on. Or we
Hmm.
on the T pages, like just trying to jump into every little business that we can get in besides our own, because we want to distract ourselves from what we really have going on and how dark we really gotten. So
Hmm.
having her be able to have that conversation with her spouse, and when she came back to me and she told me, she was like, he looked stunned, like he didn't know what was going on. And I'm like, how did you feel though? Like, being able to finally, like, that's a lot of burden to carry
Hmm.
alone.
Oh my
Like,
God.
to just be walking around, you have a spouse, you have kids, and then to just pretend that everything is perfect, like, that's a heavy baggage. And she
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, just that alone made me feel so much better. And
Okay.
after that, like, being able to have her work on herself now, like, now she doesn't have to do it in private, she doesn't have to do it alone. Like, being able to have that support of her spouse, even her kids. Like, my child also know my plan of care, your kids being able to know your plan of care, being able to, she follow her own plan of care and being a part of her own journey, I think is
Mm.
what made her turn around and be able to gain her own power. And I like to say, like, she transmuted her pain into her power. And I'm just so proud of her. And now that I'm just thinking about it again, like, it's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what a beautiful example. Thank you,
Taking
Lala.
accountability. You're welcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so aligned, right, with what we have found is essential to relationship well-being, which is that like the personal accountability for each partner combined with like the willingness to support one another on the other person's personal growth journey, right? It's like I've got my work to do, you've got your work to do, and it's not, but it's not like, oh, that's your problem, make it your problem. It's like, I see that this is your work, I'm not responsible for it, but I'm going to love you through it, I'm going to partner with you through
Yeah.
Yeah.
it,
Help
Hmm.
where I can. Yeah.
right? And that's this, so like so resonant with what you're speaking to, Lala, and the way that um you're helping women in particular, but like I think anybody listening can benefit from these practices and these suggestions, and recognizing that when you take responsibility and step into your own like power and accountability to for your mental health, and then it kind of invite your partner into that journey with you
Hmm.
by communicating with them, by working with them to make a plan of action, by being really intentional about how you're going to keep feeding your relationship, right? Because you're right, like that can go away really easy if you're not also feeding your relationship. It can't just be your partner taking care of you all the time, right? Like you might not be able to give everything you want, but you got to be intentional about what you can give
What
and
you
be
can.
intentional about giving,
Hmm.
but you put all of that together and you've got a powerhouse plan for navigating whatever challenges life throws your way.
Mm, that is
So good.
important. It is.
Mhm. Mhm. So God, it's 3 o'clock already. That went
I
so
know.
fast.
Right.
Lala, I would love for you to share before we wrap up a little bit about like how people can get a hold of you or any programs or offers that you have right now in case somebody is interested in getting your support in their own healing journey.
Right. So I do have one-on-one calls. It's about 60 to 90 minutes. That is just I I do those to kind of like get to know you and you get to know me and get to know
Mhm.
how I work and my style. But where the like meat and potato come from is the long-term work. The long-term work, which is my 3 or 6 month container. It takes 21 days to build a habit. It takes 90 days to get rid of one that you created. So one-on-ones, like those little small, that's just for us to get to know each other. But if you want like a true work and you want a true change, those 3 to 6 months containers are going to be like, and I'm working on one that's 12 months. That is where the real change and the real power come in at. You can
Yeah.
find me on Facebook, which is Rebel Lala, and any other
Mhm.
platforms, which is TikTok and Instagram. It's going to be Real Healing with Lala. And you can find me on any one of those, DM me, and we can get to talking and try to initiate what that looks like for both of us to work together.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. So we've got you linked in our post. We'll make sure to add some links so you can help us with the links that we don't have for
Okay.
like
Yeah.
your TikTok and Insta.
Okay.
So people can get a hold of you, send you a DMs, get the ball rolling, and
Yes,
start stepping into happier, healthier, like self and relationship.
that
Mhm.
is right.
Awesome. Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Lala. This
No
has
problem.
been beautiful and powerful and
Yeah.
healing, and so important for anybody who's contending with the struggles of a mind and brain that aren't working the way that you want them to.
Yeah. Yeah, I do thank you guys for letting me join, and I do hope you guys have a good day, okay?
Of
Yeah.
course.
Thanks.
Yes, you too,
Thank
friend.
you.
Bye bye.